That Scarlet bitch. She went too far. I hope she rots and turns into a complete monster. Elena, grimacing in pain, couldn't help but let out her frustration. Watch what you're saying, Eleanor, sitting beside her, was startled and quickly motioned for Elena to lower her voice. Elena, you can't speak like that. If Scarlet hears it, you might be in even bigger trouble. Scarlet, the goddess of war from Dragonmarsh, and one of the Spanners. Twins of the powerful Spanner family were not individuals they could afford to offend. Plus, considering her temper, retaliation was practically guaranteed. What's there to fear? There's no one else here. Can't I complain a bit? Elena spoke with bitterness, though she instinctively lowered her voice. Watch your words. You never know who might be listening. Trouble often starts with loose tongues, Eleanor warned. If I can't curse Scarlet, can I at least curse Dustin? Through gritted teeth, Elena said, that darn Dustin. He's the reason I'm in this mess. Once I'm back on my feet, he will regret it. Elena, times have changed. Now, Dustin has Scarlet backing him up. Going against him is too risky. Eleanor shook her head. While Eleanor shared Elena's desire to destroy Dustin, considerations had to be taken into account. Scarlet's protection made it a dangerous move, and they lacked the courage to challenge her. But we can't just sit back and take it, can we? Elena expressed her reluctance to accept the situation. Of course not. Eleanor suddenly lowered her voice and added, Scott is Sir Mosey's godson and Anders' godbrother. Scott's death won't be left as it is. Once we report the situation truthfully, the Moseys will take care of Dustin. But Dustin has Scarlet protecting him, doesn't he? Elena asked, feeling a bit puzzled. Scarlet and Dustin are at most ordinary friends. I don't believe she would openly oppose the Moseys for a small fry like Dustin, Eleanor asserted confidently. In her view, Dustin, without power or influence, wasn't worth it for Scarlet to cause a major conflict. That makes sense. Upon hearing this, Elena's eyes lit up. I'll give the Moseys a call. I'll spice up the details a bit, and when they show up, Dustin is going to face the consequences. As she reached for her phone ready to make a call, it suddenly vibrated. It was a call from her father. She quickly answered it, and a furious roar came through the phone. You troublemaker! What have you done? Our family's in shambles because of you. The sudden, furious outburst left Elena in shock. Holding the phone, she looked bewildered and asked, Dad, what's happening? Is something wrong back home? Her father's voice roared from the other end. You got the nerve to ask. It's all because of the mess you've stirred up. Just now, the authorities sent in a bunch of troops. They not only locked down all our assets, but also arrested most of our key members. Now, the entire Forrest family is on the edge. If this keeps up, I might even end up behind bars. What? How could this happen? Our family business is thriving, and we have extensive connections. Who could seize our family assets? Elena widened her eyes in disbelief. The Forrest family business had been thriving. With the extensive network connections, any issues could usually be resolved easily. It never escalated into such a dire situation. What the heck have you done? Do you have any idea what's going on? Someone is dead set on putting you behind bars. You troublemaker. Who did you manage to piss off this time? Owen Forrest, Elena's father, was fuming. I haven't crossed anyone. Why is all this happening? She looked genuinely distressed. Don't act innocent with me. I don't care who you've offended, but you better beg for their forgiveness. If you don't, the entire Forrest family is in deep trouble. And I'll be the first one hunting you down. He was visibly furious. After a heated exchange, he abruptly ended the call. Elena held the phone, her face in disbelief. What in the world had happened? Why did her seemingly prosperous family suddenly face such a calamity? What's going on? Eleanor, seated beside her, mirrored the confusion. Even without knowing the details, the audible yelling from the other end of the phone left Eleanor perplexed. I don't know. My dad just mentioned that the authorities have sealed off our family, and they've arrested many key members. Right now, the Forrest family is in serious trouble, teetering on the brink of collapse. Elena said, panicked. Sealed off? Arrested? Is it that serious? Eleanor frowned, sensing something peculiar. The Forrest family was among the 8 influential families, boasting significant sway and connections. Whoever had the power to lock down the Forrest family's assets must be an incredibly influential figure in Oakvale. At that moment, Eleanor's phone suddenly rang. Startled by her father's incoming call, she felt a knot of unease forming. After a brief hesitation, she answered, "Hey, Dad, what's wrong?" "Eleanor, where are you? Find a place to hide quickly. There's major trouble brewing back home." Alistair urgently blurted out. "Trouble? What happened?" Her anxiety deepened. He whispered, "Just now, authorities sent in a bunch of troops. They've surrounded our place, aiming to seal off all our properties and arrest key members of the Welch family. It's just pure chaos now at home. Your mom and I managed to slip away in the confusion. We're figuring things out. You focus on staying safe. Once we've weathered this storm, we'll get in touch." "Dad, what's going on?" Eleanor's anxiety grew. The Welch family had faced its share of challenges, but the thought of a raid and being sealed had never crossed her mind. Alistair replied, "I'm not entirely sure of the details. All I can tell you is that this is a grave situation. Some old debts of the family have resurfaced, and now we can either get arrested or find a way to escape. The whole family is in turmoil. Take care of yourself. I still have matters to attend to. I'll hang up first." Before Eleanor could ask more questions, her father abruptly ended the call. Like Elena, Eleanor was left in a state of shock and bewilderment. Eleanor had never imagined that the Welch family would be in such dire straits, with her parents desperately fleeing for their lives, and the family teetering on the precipice of bankruptcy. The once mighty great family had crumbled overnight. This sudden and shocking downfall marked the end of her life of luxury and the days of carefree extravagance. "Eleanor, is your family possibly going through a similar ordeal?" Eleanor cautiously asked. "Just like you, authorities raided our home." Eleanor replied, her expression grim, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. "My family is in trouble, and your family is being raided, too. Is this really just a coincidence?" Elena furrowed her brow. Overnight, 2 prominent families were targeted simultaneously. It was clearly a sabotage. But who could wield such immense power? "Looks like someone from the 4 ancient houses is pulling the strings," Eleanor mused. "Are you suggesting the Spanner family?" Elena quickly made the connection. Scarlett had just rebuked them, and the memory was still fresh. However, Scarlett's ruthless actions took Elena by surprise. "It's likely them. I can't think of anyone else apart from the Spanner family," Eleanor stated calmly. Apart from the recent clash with Dustin, they hadn't offended any members of the ancient house. Scarlett's status made it plausible for her to bring down both the Welch and Forrest families. "This is bad. If it's the Spanner family, we're in deep trouble." Elena panicked. The Spanner family stood as the leader of the 4 ancient houses. They were a force to be reckoned with, and dealing with them would not be easy. "We underestimated Dustin. It seems this loser has a close bond with Scarlett. Otherwise, the Spanner family wouldn't be acting so aggressively," Eleanor remarked, gritting her teeth. She had initially brushed off Dustin's threats, but the current situation that the Welch family was facing highlighted the seriousness of the matter. If things continued this way, the Welch family was on the brink of destruction. "Eleanor, what should we do now?" Eleanor was panicking. How about apologizing to Dustin, begging for his forgiveness? Offering some financial compensation might turn the tide. Apologize. Eleanor's expression grew icy. As daughters of noble families, we can't stoop so low as to apologize to someone like him. Just think of the shame if this gets out. The memory of Dustin's outrageous conditions flashed through her mind. He wanted to kneel in front of Lana's memorial for 3 days and nights, followed by giving up half of the family's wealth. Such demands were just too much. What are our options? We can't just watch our family fall apart, can we? Elena was troubled. She hated the idea of apologizing to Destin, but it seemed like there was no other choice. Do you think apologizing to him will make him spare us? Don't be naive. He's just toying with us. The more we fear, the bolder he gets, Eleanor declared firmly. But Eleanor was about to voice her thoughts, yet Eleanor sharply cut her off. We're not cornered yet. Even if the Spanner family is trying to suppress us, we still have a chance to turn the tables. A chance? How? Elena perked up instantly. With disaster looming for both their families, who else could save them? The Spanners may be powerful, but they don't have absolute control. Also, the Moseys are still the most powerful among the 4 ancient houses, Eleanor said seriously. Don't forget that Destin killed Scott, even if the Spanners back him up. The Moseys won't just let him get away with it. That is why we can work with the Moseys to turn the tables on Destin. We won't only protect ourselves that way, but we can also exact revenge. It'll be a win-win situation. You're right. That's a great idea. Elena lit up. Why hadn't she thought of it earlier? Despite pressure from the Spanners, there might still be a chance for them with the Moseys' support. Eleanor, I'll call Dahlia immediately and ask her to find a way to help us through this crisis. Elena picked up her phone and was about to make the call when Eleanor stopped her. Wait, calling Dahlia may not help. Although she's Sir Mosey's goddaughter, she doesn't hold as much influence as Scarlet. If we don't call Dahlia, then who should we ask for help from? Elena was puzzled. The best person to seek help from is the Veros warrior, Anders Mosey. Eleanor rationalized. Ever since Anders returned to the Mosey's mansion, the chess game has changed. Those who used to be loyal to Dahlia had switched sides to Anders. Scott is a prime example. I also heard that Destin killed Scott right in front of Anders today. His bold move was a direct challenge to Anders' authority. When had the renowned Veros warrior ever suffered such humiliation? I'm sure he hates him to the core now. It'd definitely be a big accomplishment if we perform well by helping him capture Destin. Our problem with the Spanners will also be resolved together. Elena nodded in agreement. You're absolutely right. You're definitely better at seeing the bigger picture. It can't be denied that Dahlia's status had taken a fall since Anders' return. Of course, the main reason was that Anders had a high-ranking position and commanded the military. His accomplishments were comparable to that of Scarlet's, perhaps even better. Only an influential person like him could save them from danger. Don't get too excited just yet. Since we're not acquainted with Anders, he certainly won't help us for free. We'll need to prove our value, Eleanor said. Value? What kind of value? Eleanor was taken aback and looked at her curiously. Eleanor, you're not suggesting we offer ourselves up that way, are you? What nonsense are you spouting? Eleanor glared at her. Did you think a woman's charm would sway someone like the Veros warrior? Even if she was willing to make advances, Anders might not even give her a second look. Numerous noble women, including those on the prestigious beauty ranking, have attempted to seduce him daily, but none succeeded. To become a god of war, he must have extraordinary self-control. If we're not offering ourselves, what else of value can we offer? Eleanor was puzzled. First of all, the Welch and Forests are prominent aristocratic families with abundant resources. If Anders is willing to help through this difficult situation, we'll agree to become the Mosey's vassals. While we might lose out on a substantial amount of benefits, it'll help us gain a powerful ally, Eleanor explained. Secondly, we know about Destin's weaknesses and secrets. By using this information, we can effectively help Anders remove that troublemaker. That is where our value lies, Eleanor explained confidently. That makes sense. Elena nodded in understanding. She said, let's not waste time. We should go and look for him now. But your injury, Eleanor hesitated. Don't worry, I won't die for now. Considering the gravity of the situation, I won't be able to rest well anyway. If I visit while in a wheelchair, I'll also appear more sincere, Elena said. All right then, let's pay a visit to Jadleaf Manor. Eleanor didn't delay and quickly had someone bring a wheelchair over. After helping Elena into it, they got in the car and headed straight for Jadleaf Manor. It was late at night. Anders was at Jadleaf Manor. He was in his study, poring over some documents in his hands with a serious expression. Ever since Dustin created a scene at Jadleaf Manor earlier in the day, he had mobilized all available resources to investigate him secretly. After several hours of effort, he finally got his hands on some information. It was revealed that Dustin was originally from Swinton and had a prior marriage with Dahlia. Initially, Dustin was just an ordinary individual with a basic knowledge of medicine. However, after his divorce, he transformed into a completely different person and rapidly ascended to prominence. He was involved in medicine, martial arts, and business, excelling in all of them. He excelled, especially in martial arts. There was a record of him killing the Balerno martial arts leader. However, what was strange was that this person showed no interest in fame or fortune, displaying no typical arrogance associated with young men. Although he achieved success quickly, he kept a low profile and never revealed his true identity. Without the involvement of special agencies, it would have been impossible to obtain this information. Strange. It's really too strange, Anders murmured as he looked at a photo of Dustin with narrowed eyes. My lord, do you have questions? His confidant asked cautiously. This Dustin seems to have appeared out of nowhere. He was a nobody before his divorce, but after that, he transformed into an unstoppable force, turning into a formidable martial arts master. Everything before and after seems not aligned. Anders tapped his fingers lightly on his desk. He seemed to be seeking answers while deep in contemplation. After a while, he seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly asked, "Oh, by the way, is this information complete?" My lord, we've investigated everything we could, the confidant replied. That can't be right. There's only information from the past 10 years on here. What about 10 years ago? What was he doing then? Anders asked darkly. 10 years ago. The confidant was momentarily taken aback. My lord, now that you mention it, I do recall that no information on him exists from 10 years ago. It's like he didn't exist. Didn't exist. How is that possible? Anders frowned. How is it possible that Dragon Marsh's intelligence agencies can't find any information on a person unless that person is an extremely important person that all records have been destroyed? Are you sure? The confidant was startled. There are only a few individuals for whom the authorities would destroy records in Oakvale, and every one of them is an unparalleled figure. 10 years ago, Dustin was only 15. How could he have possibly held such power? It might not be possible for other people, but one person certainly can. Anders' gaze suddenly burned with intensity. Who? The confidant asked. The Reese family's Kieran Logan Reese. Logan Reese? The confidant's eyes widened in disbelief. That's impossible. Wasn't he reported dead? He just disappeared. That doesn't necessarily mean he's dead. At least we haven't found a complete body so far, Anders said solemnly. 10 years ago, the chaos happened suddenly and ended abruptly. After that night, Logan, who had all eyes on him, mysteriously disappeared. The only thing the authorities found was a charred body that they suspected to be him. However, the body was so badly burnt that it was impossible to identify. Due to the official announcement, many people came to believe that the body was indeed his. Only the sharp individuals were skeptical, as there were inconsistencies and uncertainties surrounding this issue. However, people gradually accepted this outcome as time passed without any news of Logan. It only came to his mind because he found a striking resemblance between Dustin and Logan. Not only were they both young and exceptionally talented, but they also shared the same surname, Reese. All these hints connected together and made him increasingly suspicious. If Logan is still alive, he should have returned to the West Lucosian monarchy. Why haven't we heard the news? The confidant was puzzled. The West Lucosian monarchy was a central hub of power and was under constant surveillance by the government. Typically, any unusual movement would be reported back to Oakvale immediately. However, there was no information from either side. It's too conspicuous to return there. Perhaps Logan has something important to do. So he hid his identity this entire time. Anders stroked his chin, deep in thought. Although he was known as the prodigy and the strongest god of war, there was still a hurdle in his life that he couldn't overcome. It had to do with the Kirin, Logan Reese. 10 years ago, when Logan's name shook Oakvale, Anders had challenged him to a duel but suffered a devastating defeat. For him, it was a heavy blow and left a lingering resentment all this while. He had always hoped to have a fair, public rematch with Logan to wipe away that past humiliation. If Dustin turned out to be Logan, his long-awaited opportunity for revenge had finally come. "My lord, what should we do now?" the confidant asked cautiously. "Double-check and verify his identity." Anders continued solemnly. "I remember that Logan has a tattoo of a beast on his body. It's the symbol of being the Kirin. Find someone to investigate whether Dustin has this tattoo on his body." "Understood. I'll arrange it immediately." The confidant nodded. He asked another question. "My lord, if Dustin turns out to be Logan, what should we do?" The West Lucosian monarchy is like a parasite to our nation. As the rightful heir to the throne, Logan is a great threat to our nation. We have a duty to eliminate that threat. A cold glint flickered in Anders' eyes. He did not wish for Logan to live under any terms. "My lord, Logan's identity is a sensitive issue. If we take action, it could lead to serious repercussions afterward," the confidant reminded. The West Lucosian monarchy was not easy to deal with. If they found out that Logan died in their hands, they would undoubtedly retaliate. Considering the Mosey family's current power, they had a low chance of winning against the West Lucosian barbarians. "You're right. We have to think this through. We need to find a scapegoat," Anders murmured. It was the perfect timing to take action since Logan's identity was still hidden. Once the truth came to light, the West Lucosian monarchy would undoubtedly send elite guards to protect him. It would be too late to act by then. "My lord!" A guard suddenly entered the room and announced, "My lord, Eleanor Welch and Elena Forrest have come to visit. They insist on discussing an urgent matter." Elena, what are they here for?" "Tell them to leave," Anders said impatiently. He was tired of the constant stream of women trying to earn his favor. "My lord, they claim that they can help you deal with Scott as murderer and hope that you'll meet them," the guard said. "Oh, is that so?" Anders raised an eyebrow. After considering it briefly, he nodded. "Very well, let them in." "Understood." The guard acknowledged and promptly left. Soon, Eleanor and Elena were brought into the room. Eleanor appeared relatively fine, only her cheeks were slightly red. On the other hand, Elena appeared pale and disheveled. She struggled to move in her wheelchair and coughed occasionally. She looked especially weak. "Greetings, Sir Anders." Eleanor bowed immediately upon seeing Anders. Elena struggled to get up from her wheelchair but was stopped by Anders. "All right, that's unnecessary. Please, both of you, straighten up." "Thank you, Sir Anders." Eleanor stood up straight and lowered her gaze, maintaining a respectful demeanor. Elena, on the other hand, couldn't help but steal glances at Anders from time to time, her heart racing. He certainly lived up to his reputation as one of Oakvale's four princes. Handsome and charismatic, he looked far more attractive than in photos. He was handsome, held a prominent position, and wielded significant power, making him the perfect man. If only she could marry someone like him, she would consider it a dream come true. "So tell me, why have you come to see me?" Anders asked impassively. "My lord, we heard Dustin caused a commotion at Jadaleep Manor today and even publicly killed Scott. We're greatly outraged by this and have come to help you eliminate this threat. Eleanor went straight to the point. She understood well that pretenses were pointless. Before someone as influential as Anders, her best chance at convincing him was being honest and open. I appreciate your goodwill. However, how exactly will you be able to help me? Anders retorted. We know Dustin very well, including his weakness. With a little scheming, we can lure him into our trap. By then, you'll be able to capture him easily with your forces lying in ambush. Eleanor explained confidently. Sounds promising, but why would you want to help me? Anders remained unfazed. To be honest, we have a deep-seated grudge against Dustin. He had used the power of the Spanners to oppress our families, making our lives miserable. We'd love nothing more than to tear that bastard apart. Eleanor expressed her hatred. So you plan to use my influence to seek revenge and simultaneously counteract the oppression from the Spanners? Anders asked with a half-hearted smile. My lord, we share a common enemy. If we work together, it'll be beneficial for both parties. Eleanor tried to explain. Work together. Anders raised an eyebrow. What can you offer me? Why should I work with you? My lord, if you help both of our families through this difficult time, we'll be your loyal followers and only obey you. Eleanor bowed again. That's right. We're willing to provide you with support and resources. Elena nodded repeatedly. All right. Since you're so sincere, I'll help you this once. However, before that, you must get rid of Dustin for me, Anders said. No problem. We'll definitely eliminate that troublemaker for you. Eleanor and Elena were overjoyed. Now it's time to discuss how to trap our prey. Anders grinned. Although Anders was smiling, his gaze was chilling. It was as if he was looking at two corpses. Just moments ago, he was worried about finding a suitable scapegoat. Unexpectedly, two individuals walked right into his hands. It was nothing short of perfect. The night passed quickly. The next morning, Dustin suddenly received a phone call from Eleanor. Hello, Dustin. We'd like to talk with you. Can we meet? Eleanor sounded gentle. There's nothing for us to talk about. You can only blame yourselves for everything that happened. Dustin replied coldly. Dustin, I know I was wrong. I'm very regretful of my decisions. Please give me a chance to make amends, Eleanor pleaded. Give you a chance? What about Lena? She didn't do anything wrong, but because of you, she's dead. Did you ever give her a chance? Dustin remained unfazed. You've misunderstood the situation. Lena's death has nothing to do with us. I swear that I knew nothing about it at first. Eleanor spoke earnestly. Did you think I would believe you? You and Scott are birds of a feather, Dustin said coldly. Dustin had already experienced her cunning and selfish nature and how she never meant what she said. She would never have softened her stance if she hadn't been pushed into a corner. Dustin, I know you doubt me, but I am truly innocent. To prove my innocence, I've investigated the real murderer. In fact, apart from Scott, there is another person directly related to Lena's death, Eleanor said mysteriously. Dustin raised an eyebrow. Oh, who? If you want to know, come and meet me at Grace Brothel. We can talk face-to-face and clear up all misunderstandings. I'll be waiting for you, Eleanor said before swiftly ending the call. Dustin held his phone, his brows furrowing. Lena's death had been weighing on his mind. And if there was another person involved in her murder, he couldn't simply ignore it. The problem was Eleanor lying? Was she truly repentant or just setting a trap, planning for an ambush? Dustin didn't worry much about it and decided to meet with her after some thought. The Welch family and the Forrest family were on the verge of bankruptcy and wouldn't be able to create any major issues. If Eleanor honestly admitted to her mistakes, she might still be able to live. Otherwise, any tricks from her would only lead to her death. It was 8 p.m. Grace Brothel was located at Inner City and was highly renowned in Oakvale. It was different from the typical restaurants and resembled a classic brothel. It was also a large building with 3 floors, all of them appearing vintage in design. The first floor was for dining and drinking. The second floor was for entertainment, and the third floor was a hotel. The individuals in Grace brothel were all specially chosen handsome men and beautiful women to suit various preferences. It was a place where celebrities and fashion models were a common sight as long as one could afford the price. Because of its unique nature, many high-ranking officials and dignitaries enjoyed visiting Grace Brothel for entertainment. Naturally, Grace Brothel was an illegal establishment, but there were always exceptions to be made. Grace Brothel was one of Celestial Alliance's businesses and a significant source of their income. Because of that, it had become of a gray area after various arrangements behind the scenes. The authorities tended to overlook its operations as long as no major incidents occurred. Meanwhile, Eleanor and Elena were seated in a luxurious room on the first floor of Grace Brothel. Their gazes occasionally shifted toward the door like they were waiting for someone. "Eleanor, are you sure that Dustin will come? We've been waiting for an hour, and there's still no sign of him." Elena was getting nervous. Since they had already made a pledge before Anders, they would be in big trouble if they failed to deal with Dustin. "Don't worry, Dustin will definitely come," Eleanor said confidently. "He's the kind of person who values loyalty and would do anything to exact revenge for Lana. If he found out that there was another person involved in her death, he would definitely do something about it. I know, but I'm worried that he saw through our plan and won't dare to come," Elena said as she looked around anxiously. "He didn't even hesitate when he killed Scott, so he's not a timid person. Even if he has his suspicions, he will still come. Let's just wait a little longer. He should be here soon," Eleanor said seriously. After spending time with Dustin, she had gained a good understanding of him. Leaving aside other aspects, the way he treated his friends was admirable. "Look, he's here." Right then, Elena seemed to have noticed something and pointed at the entrance. Eleanor followed her gaze and saw Dustin walking in slowly, dressed in white. To their delight, he had come alone. This would make it easier for them to execute their plan. "Dustin, you're here. Please have a seat." As Dustin approached, Eleanor quickly greeted him with a warm smile. Her enthusiasm made it seem like they were reuniting old friends. Dustin just sat down without much courtesy and said coldly, "I'm here now. Just go straight to the point. There's no rush. Let's have some drinks first, and we can talk slowly," Eleanor said with a pleasant smile as she poured Dustin a drink. However, Dustin remained seated quietly without any signs of movement. "Are you worried that I poisoned the drink?" "I'll drink first to prove my innocence," Eleanor quickly responded, pouring herself a cup and downing it. "I'll drink, too." Elena, not wanting to appear weak, also drank from her cup. They had dismissed the idea of using a lowly trick like poisoning. Someone as skilled as Dustin could easily find out if their drinks had been tampered with.